All right. I think I'm ready when you are.
I'm ready.
What's cooking?
A lot, Basil.
Tell me, Basil.
Um, I did a FB Live this weekend that really hit home for people. I'm curious if we can deepen the conversation a bit.
Please.
It was about um, Shia just decided to sleep late, woke up late. I mean, totally fine. Like, there's no problem with it. But in doing so, he like woke up basically at 9. He has Hebrew school on Sunday.
Okay.
And so I'm noticing, like, it was interesting for me because I noticed how far I've come in certain respects, and I see how annoyed Fanny got with the whole process, and how she was just like yelling at him, "Why aren't you moving faster? Why don't you do your homework faster? Why aren't you brushing your teeth?" Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, "Look, he's choosing, right?" And so the video I made was about how we get upset because we're attached to a certain result. And if you gave up that your child had to be somewhere on time, because that is all on you. It makes you look bad. It makes you, like your kid's not listening to you, your kid's not responding, like all that stuff. But that they're not doing anything. It's just you doing
Sure.
it to yourself.
Sure.
And so I was just noticing, because I would have absolutely been that guy. Because for me, being on time and having integrity is so important. And I get like now that that's not my kid's conversation. So with that being said, what was really funny is like watching her do her thing and being in a state where I was like, listen, if he wants to take an hour out of what he could be doing that's really fun and just instead just be sitting at home, then listen, that's his choice. And so I posted this on Facebook Live because I was sitting in a parking lot just thinking about this. And then it occurred to me, and as I'm doing it, like Wendy comes on and she's like, "Oh yeah, my husband's yelling at our kids right now to get ready to go to church." And
Mm.
Danny, who just joined our manifestation masterclass, he's like, "Oh my God, I do this with my 17-year-old daughter all the time." So I was just realizing, like, wow, this is something that we do quite often, and it might be a lot bigger than just with children. It might be with a spouse or like all of these things where we make ourselves really upset because we create some sort of timeline or some sort of way that this thing needs to go. I know even like for me, Fanny's not as regimented. It's so interesting that she's so detail oriented, but she's not as regimented when it comes to time.
Hmm.
And I used to get so mad that I would literally go sit in the car, huff and puff, and wait for her. And then I revert to like this whole like, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go, which also annoyed the shit out of her.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Yeah. So that doesn't work. And so yeah, it's
I'll implant that for me when I'm married. That doesn't work.
does not work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just curious if ever this stuff comes up for you.
Sure.
I'm sure it does as a Virgo. But like what you've been, because people were just rocking in there like, oh my God, this happens to me all the time. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. And I'll share with you guys a little bit more about my like the tools that I've used recently that help. But I'm curious what you had to say.
Yeah, I mean, certainly speaks to the rigid pattern in all of us. I have definitely had this. I mean, my strategy for at least the last 10 years, up until probably about a year and a half ago, was get everywhere early. And it wasn't out of, it's funny what we will call integrity. Like for me, that had to do with my personal integrity, right? But like,
Yes.
what was behind it? Because you and I were landmark folks, so it's like anybody who's done like landmark work, like being on time is a paramount importance inside the work, because it's like the baseline for your own integrity of like honoring your word. You say you're going to be somewhere, just show up. However, it would cause me a lot of stress, and I would show up to places early to avoid the feeling of stress that I get when I'm running late or rushing to be on time. Don't like either one of those sensations. And then something happened. Something probably happened about a year ago, maybe less at this point in time, that really cemented it home differently for me. Which is, I saw that I was like, specifically with friends that I have, that I would write them, vox them, write them, text them, message them, something along those lines, where they wouldn't get back to me fairly quickly. I noticed I had the same response as waiting for someone on time. It's
Yep.
like, I know you've seen the fucking message. Why is it 2 days later and I still don't have a response, right?
Yep.
So going back to the core principle, which is always, okay, well, if I'm shaming somebody else, what am I shaming inside myself? And I saw that I didn't have time to like do that to people. So when someone messaged me, I would look at my phone and I'm like, oh shit, I got to get back to them. Or if I would leave it alone for a little bit of time and I would forget, I would shame myself for not remembering. And then like, I was always trying to keep up with my inbox and my Voxes and my messenger. And I'm sure you've seen, I'm not that great at keeping up with my stuff anymore.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I have not noticed that at all.
Well, the look in your eye says you're making me wrong, but the look in my eye says, way to go, guy, because I like, I don't want to say I transcended it. It's just shifted for me, you know, because what I saw is I'd only be making them wrong because I don't have space for it. Like
Say more. What?
like,
What?
so like I get it. Like I would notice anxiety build up in my system when I would get back to people quickly, right? And then I was like, you know what? I'm shaming myself into getting back to people on time, hiding it by calling it integrity. And while I could make a strong case for integrity, and everyone would be like, sure, that makes sense. It even makes sense to me. But I'm like, is that really the experience that I want? Is it really critically important to get it back to everybody right away? Like in the true world of worlds, like it's not. I've made that important, and I can make that important when I want to, and I can make that not important when I want to. But the point is, it's like it gave me solace. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to shame myself into getting back to people on time, because there's a part of me that like, guy always gets back to people on time. You can count on him, right? And I'm a very count-onable person, which is how my friends and family have always known me. Certainly a trait we got from our father, right? Like, that's the most count-onable person in the freaking world. But at the same time, is he peaceful when that stuff is happening? No. So I'm like, well, what do I value more? Do I value being a person that everyone looks at and goes, oh, well, when I need him, he's there? Or do I just want to fucking be peaceful? And the point is, I wanted to be able to choose in, right? There are times where it's important. There's times where I want to. There's times where I don't. And it's more like dancing in it. Like, let me listen to my energy. Is my energy right now that I want to be out here, external, taking care of people? Or am I like in a restorative state? When I'm in a restorative state, just because I have a fucking cell phone should not dictate whether or not I have to get back to people on time, right? In fact, it's if you break this or throw this away and live without it for a few months, you're going to be immediately more peaceful by the sheer fact that no one can expect you to get back to them right away. And that's just because that's in your experience. Everyone's still expecting it, but you're
That's
like,
camping.
Yeah, I don't care, right? I'm off radar. Like, too bad, bitches. So my point is that I flipped that energy inside myself because I saw that it wasn't about them. I didn't have room to do that. And I'm like, wow, then I'm operating out of one way of being. I'm certainly not committed to that. And suddenly I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stop shaming the fact that I have to get back to people all the time. It just creates anxiety in my life. The moment I did that, I stopped having a concern with everybody else.
Yeah, so you nailed it on the head. And I love that I actually wrote, and you ended it with that line, like shaming myself into. And as a parent, to go back to this, that's where we go. It's like other people are going to judge my parenting based on how my son or daughter dresses, on how they show up to things, on how I show up to things. And it's fascinating to just notice, again, like not to make yourself wrong about it, just notice how many things in your life you do because there's this phenomenon of looking good in your life. And, for Fanny, I asked her afterwards, like once Shia left and all that stuff, I was like, look, what was the thing that was upsetting you? Mm-hmm. It had nothing to do with him being late. It had nothing to do with him being on time or not on time. It was the perception that he was ignoring me. The perception that he wasn't listening to me or wasn't respecting me or things like that. Now, is that true? Does she know that he doesn't respect her? Does she even know that he's not listening to her? No. It's all stuff that we've made up, right? And it's all compounding from this innate drive that he needs to be there at this time, or it will mean X about me. Do you think Shia gives a shit if he's there at 9 or 9:15 or 9:30 or not an ounce. Not an ounce. So it's us that care. Now, obviously, there are times that we need to get to places on time, right? Like there's things that we've committed to, et cetera, timelines, whatever. Like that's how the world functions. So yes, we can do all that stuff. But like I learned this. I remember having this conversation with Marcy because morning routines, and I think for a lot of people across all over the world that try to get their kids out of the house for school. And I remember the first one of our first clients chose to homeschool his children. And he said there was two things that were completely unexpected as benefits to homeschooling your children that he wouldn't have even thought of or planned for or anything like that. The first was that they got to travel during times that no one else was traveling. Right? Because like everyone that has children in school, everyone travels at the same time when their kids are on break. So you travel, it's the most expensive time. Everything is crazy booked. Like they could go whenever the hell they want. I was like, oh, that's really smart, right? So that was cool. The second thing he mentioned to me, he's like, I don't remember the last time I didn't have a stressful morning with my kids, like getting them out the door. That doesn't happen anymore. There is no out the door. They start when they're ready to start. That is it. And I was like, wow, that's so brilliant. So I remember then I had this similar experience and I had a conversation with Marcy and she had me just like pay attention to, the moments that you are getting triggered in your life, you can value as the most important moments of your life. What I mean by that is in the moments that you're getting triggered is the moments that you have the largest opportunities for growth. So if in the morning there is some interaction with your child that is really irritating you, whether it's frustrating you, making you upset, making you sad, whatever the heck it is, what do you think in that moment is more important? Your son or daughter getting to school at exactly the time, or you having a brilliant interaction with your little being to get a massive growth for both of your relationships? Like in the grand scheme of things, what is more important? And once you kind of like reframe that, then the time goes out the window. Now I get like, look, I work from home. Fanny takes the bus in the morning 3 days a week. So like when she has to leave, she's got to leave, right? I'll share with you something that I shared on the FB Live. And this has really, really made a difference for us here at home. Look, I mean, to a 6-year-old or a 5 and a 6.5-year-old, getting dressed and brushing your teeth are not top priorities. You guys get that? Like for them, it's play. For them, it's having fun, running around, dancing, screaming, painting, whatever it is, right? Not the things that are trivial in that. Here's where we've kind of shifted. They get to create their day. So they get to create some sort of thing that they want to do, right? Like some sort of fun event. So for him, let's say not that Hebrew school is like the most fun, but let's just roll with that, right? Like he wants to go to Hebrew school to see his friends, okay? So like you get to sit down and go, all right, Shai, what do you want for today? I want to go hang out with my friends. Then afterwards we had like an event where we were going to some friend's house. So it'd be like, all right, what do you want to do? We get to go have fun. We get to go play at this other people's house. Is this something that you want to do? Yes, I want to do. Okay, great. What do we get to do in order to get out the door the fastest so that we can get to the thing that we want, which is really fun? Because I get putting on clothes and brushing, like that's not fun. I get that. Can you see how in order to get to the fun thing, these are some of the things that we get to do? And they're smart. These kids are really, really smart. So the not the onus, but the power almost transfers, and you get to have them choose in to what they get to participate in order to get what it is they want. Right now, I'm not saying this works all the time. I'm just saying this is like a practice that I've put in place. So look, right now, so at 3:50, so in about 30 minutes, I have to leave because Shia has tennis practice. And it was the same thing. Every time we'd go to tennis practice, he'd be late. He'd be late. I'd be running around after this call, like trying to get him into his gear and this and that and this and that. So I sat him down and I was like, Shia, do you like tennis? I love tennis. Okay, great. Do you want to maximize your time at tennis? Yes, I do. What do you get to do in order to make that happen? When do you think we get to leave? So now, I don't know if you've noticed the last few times, he literally comes into the office and he'll be like, Dad, it's time to go.
He's in gear, yeah.
Yeah. So he's the one initiating. He's the one that took on responsibility for how and when we get to leave the house, which is amazing, right? Like,
so it's a question here, right?
Yeah, please.
So with Fanny, for instance, Fanny's Elon's wife, for those that don't know, is in that situation, the kids are upsetting her, whatever. So like in the past, right? So I want to give you a little example here. Each person has a script to their life, right? I have my script, you have your script, right? And the reason we're compliant with one another is because my script, you like reading. So like Fanny has something from her past that dictates the way that she is in her rigid patterns. You have something from your past that dictates how your rigid patterns work. So what her patterns are, yours will emulate and bring out her patterns. Do you get that? You with me so far?
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you.
So like for me and Mandy, for instance, right? Like if I have the I'm a loner, and she has the like this I'm a loner script, and she has the nobody loves me script, my script and her script work perfectly together because by being alone, she always gets to not be loved. Clear? So there's something like that for you guys working that as well, right? So it's like you're on time. She's always late. You saying to her you're not on time brings out some part of her that shames herself, blah, blah, blah. And like that script, rinse, cycle, repeat. So in this situation, you pulled your son away, who was running a pattern, who before you were feeding the pattern, so you're getting more of the pattern. You sit him down and you say, hey, look, let's look at your alignment. What's in alignment with what's pleasure for you? Well, it's tennis. I spend more time over there. Great. Well, then what do we get to do to create more alignment? And he's like, boom, instant transformation. Fanny, same thing. There's like, she's running pattern. You could sit her little girl down and say, hey, look, there are certain things that are important. Maybe ahead of time, you guys say, hey, these are the things that we have to show up on time. What's the thing that we get to do to support you in order to have that be the most enjoyable experience versus like, I'm shaming you and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, right? And that's really it. Like this came from me from like my former, because like I was constantly in an emotional battle with the fact that I wasn't getting the type of communication that I want, but our scripts fit. You get that? Like she kept making me feel like what I was feeling was alone.
Yeah.
And what she does is she leaves. So the scripts were perfect for each other. But until I was willing to look at my script and say, what's the part of the script that I get to change so that I don't have to feel alone every time this happens and it's more in alignment with what I want, which is what you said. Do you want to drop off your kids and be pissed off? Or do you want to leave them and be like, yeah, they were 5 minutes late, but I feel super fucking connected to my kids today. And the rest of my day is amazing before that. You're not even going to remember those 5 minutes. And that's the thing. So that's the shift. Okay, fine. So yes, once in a while, people are now running their patterns when I don't get back to them and go, where's Guy? But you know what? I'm fucking peaceful and I'm in my power more of my day and I'm enjoying my life versus going through those patterns I'm making wrong. At the end of the day, I get to be responsible for me, take care of me. And if there is some kind of shift that I get to make in my relationships because something's not working, at least I can make it from that place where I see that I have choice. I'm like, you know what? Well, choosing it here, that wasn't in alignment. I'll choose differently next time versus before I literally had one mode of operation.
Yeah. Guys, if you're digging this conversation, if this is resonating with you, just hit the like, comment. The like and love button. Just keep hitting up on that. And let us know if you have comments or questions. I think this is like a pretty universal. Marta is writing, first time I hear about pattern scripts in this way. Very interesting. LJ, I saw you on the earlier one that I did about meditation. So that's great.
So bro, for you, what do you see, right? So let's bring it on the court.
Yep.
Obviously, so here's an opportunity to make some change. What's in alignment with you going forward about time that brings more connection and understanding in the relationship so that doesn't occur? I don't know. What do you hear?
Well, so the work that I've done that work. That entire morning, I had nothing, literally nothing about it. I left the house. I drove him there. I went around. I had like a few things that I needed to do. I ended up picking him up. Like I literally, you know that like blood boiling meter. Like it didn't even start. Like, I got nothing about it. You want to show up to Hebrew school at 10? Show up to Hebrew school at 10. Like it's literally no effect in my life whatsoever. Because for me, like you said, the current state of feeling is way more important than that. With Fanny and being on time and things like that, what I used to notice is it would take me almost half of the car ride into the city to do all of this work on myself and my mind to be like, it's not a big deal. So we're going to be 10, 15 minutes late. Like, who cares? Why are you so mad at her? And I would just get like, because I would get myself so revved up. I like knew that this was what's going to come. So with her specifically, what I did was like, I just outed myself. I was like, look, when this happens, I get really frustrated and angry. I get frustrated because I have the thing with time and I realize that that's not a thing for you. And for you, showing up 10 to 15 minutes late is not a thing. And I'm sitting here and my blood is boiling. I'm literally like pacing in our bedroom, like, come on, come on, come on. And I realized that it's not like it makes you feel horrible also. I'm not committed to that. So what do we get to create? So what we did was like when we know we have to be somewhere and I want to be there on time, for example, we'll actually map out the day together. I'm like, all right, by when do we need to complete this? By when do you need to get in the shower? By when da 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 da. And so at first she was doing it based on her timeline. And I was like, no, that timeline doesn't work. That's the timeline that gets us there 15 minutes late. So I was like, can you start that same process and start it 20 or 30 minutes earlier? Because like that will make me feel really good. Because I remember like we would leave to the airport at like the last possible moment, and then the entire car ride, I have fucking anxiety. Mm-hmm. Like I would much rather get to the airport 3 hours before my flight than have a drive for an hour that just filled with anxiety. Like, are we gonna make it? Are we gonna make it? Are we gonna make it? Like it's not fun for me.
Sure.
And once you start to realize those things, you can start to put in place certain structures and communicate certain things. I think the important part to realize is like,
I'm laughing because I want to take you so much deeper than that during this conversation. To me, that's still handling things with the mind. And the mind is never going to catch you going into patterns. So like, I'm sure at times that works and at times that's going to fail. But if you're in the car ride and you got to like berate yourself through the ride, like, I know it's silly, da 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 da, you're already way past the emotional body.
No, that's I'm saying like, that's how I used to do it.
Okay. So what's going on now?
Nothing. No, now I got nothing. Like I've literally given up all these conversations. That's why I'm saying to you guys, like, I didn't think it was possible for me to be in a state where I'm like, I don't want to say fuck it, but like fuck it. Like, you know, even the 5 minute, like, okay, being 5 minutes late or 10 minutes late or 15 minutes late, which in my world before was, oh my God, I'm terrible. I'm out of integrity. Like people are going to think less of me. My word is this. Like, granted, you know, we were trained like this way because of landmark and things like that. But like once I got that and I was like, holy fuck, like, yeah, that's a good framework to obviously stand in and want to live from and all that stuff. And is it in the moment worth my health? Is it worth my feeling shitty? Is it worth being mad at my wife for absolutely no reason or being mad at my kid for absolutely no reason? It's not.
Well, I still want to take it deeper because for me, I think for most people, whether they've done personal development work or not, they might be making the person wrong, or maybe they've done a little bit of work and they're like, hey, well, you know, I shouldn't be getting mad at them, but like that I shouldn't be, or like that fuck it attitude is more of like, I'm dealing with mentally. I now have a new rule, but like my patterning is still getting upset. Where I want to really look at here is like, okay, so there's still a shaming happening in the system. Like I'm not supposed to be late to things. And then there's like what you get to how you get to free yourself of that internal experience so that when it comes up, you can look at that pattern, but it's like, it's no longer running. Do you know what I mean?
The pattern, I don't know that the pattern won't run. It's just the relationship to the pattern. The pattern will run. You're not gonna undo a pattern of rigidness like for.
Well, so for example, when you're late, right, and that happens. Because by the way, I had this with Jordan for years, and I used to get really fucking worked up about it. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, legitimately, like, it's been years since I've had that response. Now,
Yeah,
granted,
same.
I'm sure there's an experience, like if we were like something really important and we were late, it probably would trigger in some way. But it's been like that used to happen to me all the time. That was like a very regular occurrence. And the same thing, I'd be in the car and I'd be trying to talk to myself and I'd get really upset and I'd be like, just fucking text them. And she wouldn't text them right away to tell people we're late. And I'm like, because we've been trained to do that. It's like, well,
That's
you got to
exactly what I'm
communicate at
saying.
least if you're not going to be on time. And then she would just be sitting there like, la di da. And I'd be like, did you text them? It's like 5 minutes later. No, you haven't texted them. I'm freaking out. That whole thing. And now I'm like, oh, cool. So something shifted because like I stopped shaming whatever it was about time. Like for me, it's like, everything starts with acceptance. So at first I had to be like, holy fuck, what hurt me was that I was doing it to myself.
Yeah.
All the time. Like what I was doing to them, I was like, wow, that's my world all the time. I'm like, of course I'm experiencing all this anxiety and stress. And then the communication to myself was, hey, just the same thing, like little boy, little girl, like it's fine if you're not on time for things. It's fine if you don't answer. And at first it seemed really trivial. I honestly didn't even realize that it had made such a big shift. I might not even realize it's the way of this conversation, how little that impacts me anymore. So clearly, whether that program is like never running again or it's running a lot less, I'm at peace now in a place where I honestly did not have a lot of peace before.
Yeah.
And part of it really did come from me about like, I experienced the upset that I was creating against myself all the time. And once I got experienced, something just shifted.
Yeah.
And then the rules came.
When the pattern comes up, say it does, right? You can see it for what it is. And you can it's almost like the way it occurs to me is I feel like that start of, it's almost like the volcano, like when it starts to bubble. And I'm like, oh, that thing. Like, right. And I'm just like, I choose not, like I'm not going to go down that path. Like the time doesn't matter to me and how people perceive him being this or being that, like I've messed with a lot of those different things. There's a lot of those things, by the way, like, as a parent, for example, having your kids dressed a certain way. But like that's really big for people. Like you can't let your kid out of the house wearing this, or you can't let the kid out of that. I was like, you know what? Do whatever the hell you want. Because look, I'm curious to see my pattern, right? I'm curious to see that when I walk out with my kids and my daughter's wearing like rainbow stockings with a bright pink dress and like a purple hat, and people are like, holy fuck, that I got nothing about it. Like I really want to notice it and just go like, oh, that's really interesting. Or when I sent my kids to school with socks on their hands because they just felt like wearing socks on their hands, Fanny was like, don't tell me you sent them to school that way. I was like, yeah, that's exactly how they went to school. Like in her world, it's like all this stuff. And it's really interesting to just notice these things. It's not that they're wrong. It's not that they're bad. It's just really interesting that we've, from a family culture and just a societal culture, have been brought up with certain, like, things need to look this way. And there's certain ones that you've bought hook, line, and sinker. Like, yes, this is how reality functions. Like people get, whatever. Like for us, it was like, you have to be on time. If you're not on time, you have to communicate with them as soon as you fucking know that you're not on time. And all these like rules that we made up. I mean, someone kind of made it up and we just took it on as rules of our own. And then I was noticing how much in my system I was feeling miserable because of those rules. And like you said, once you give up the rules, the system doesn't have to fight something anymore. And it's just like, oh, because for me, experiencing peace with my wife and with my kids is the number one thing.
Yep, living in alignment. Well, so this is great. Like this whole conversation is awesome. I also like how we're like kind of like tussling it back and forth a little bit. So what's great, right? Like if you think about the experience, it's coming up, you're having this emotional experience, and then shame comes in, right? Like I'm not going to have that experience, but now you're dealing with the experience that shame is creating.
Yeah.
This like emotional rigmarole. You're trying to figure it out in your head. Of course, that doesn't happen because now you're so fucking out of alignment. The system's taken over. You're running automatic patterns. And then you're shaming them so they don't feel it either. But you're causing that experience for them. Do you get that? You know what I'm saying? So like, because you're not allowing yourself to have that emotional experience, the fact that someone could be okay with being late, you want to shame that out of them too. You're like, I'm gonna shame you into my experience, basically.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like they're having a different emotional experience than you. Their system is responding differently. You can't even imagine it because you've never even allowed yourself to go into that experience. So like the piece is, instead of every time when you're late, all that stuff that arises about it, is to actually perpetually put yourself in a situation where you're late. Like you're just fucking late. You're so fucking late that the only choice is to surrender to the experience that being late is causing. Because then you actually get to have the sensational, emotional, oral, whatever, all the experience around it. And then you can be like, oh, this is what it's like. When it's like, otherwise you're not even just living in one pattern, you're living in a singular state of being instead of actually exploring, like, what does it feel like when I'm really fucking late? And then like fully surrendering into that until you have complete peace around it. If you have complete peace around it now, it's gone. It stops having a hold on you. The system actually has another pathway for energy to move through because, guys, when you're late, you're fucking late. Like, that's it. There's no if, ands, or but about it. You're not getting that time back at that point in time. Most people operate like they know they're going to be late. They already have their excuse prepared. And in their world, like that's like being on time, but that certainly is not being on time. And it's not that, like, for a long time I had it that was the right way to do things. That was the in integrity way to do things. But like you said, when priorities in life changed, if my top priority is I live in my presence, I live in alignment, I live from love, I live from empathy, I live from connection, and certainly that situation, that emotional experience, that pattern takes me out of my top 5 priorities, if they were that, and they are kind of that for me today, then my choice is easy. I'm like, all right, look, I might not like this in the moment, but I'm going to let myself fully experience it without bringing shame into the equation. Because look, you standing there going with your wife is like, hey, we got to go. Is you expressing your inner shame about being late, trying to shame her system.
Yeah.
Right. Just the same. Now, but her system, whatever her script is in line with that script and actually creates more of wherever she's shaming herself about the experience, but it might not be about time. It might be about I'm losing connection or I feel all alone. And that's the script, but you shaming her on time makes her feel more alone. So it makes her perpetual pattern go. And this is what happens with partners, right? We just run each other's shit on all the time. Yeah. Otherwise they wouldn't be your partner.
Yeah.
It would invalidate your life experience.
One of the beautiful things now is because I've been doing a lot of this type of work, and I know that I would have reacted the exact same way Fanny did, then I get to almost see, like observe from the outside my old pattern and like exactly how I would have operated. And if anything, it just makes me more want to stay where I'm at because I'm like, I'm so peaceful right now. I could be doing that exact thing. So when he left, like we actually had a sit down and I asked her, I was like, why are you so upset and frustrated right now? And it's funny, like the first thing she did was like, I'm not upset and frustrated. I'm like, interesting.
Sounds different.
Right? Because like her experience. So then we started speaking and it was like, it came down to, he's not respecting me. And I was like, interesting. Is that really true? And it's in the moments, it's really hard to see. But like after the moment, when you kind of just take a step back and look at it, is your 6.5-year-old really consciously not respecting you? Like, could you honestly 100% say that? Or is it your perception that he's not respecting you? And then you could take it a step further and go, okay, where else do I get triggered when people don't respect me? So, and that's an amazing place to look. That's what I'm saying. Like these kids, if you have kids, they are the most brilliant teachers because kids don't operate in the world that adults do. Your kids came here to teach you very valuable lessons. They are so in tune to your energy. They too want you to have breakthroughs. So like the other night for me, I had an absolute conniption about the exact same thing that we're talking about right now. Like literally like this exact thing. And I just lost it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not something that's just one and done and it's always perfect, etc. You know, I committed to being on a call with someone at 8 p.m. I asked the kids to go upstairs at certain times, this and that. And it got to the point where like, I was making requests. I was like, how can I help you? How can I help you? We get to be done by this time so I can go and have my call. And it was like this time that they chose that they're just going to do whatever the hell they want. They're going to sing and jump on their beds and do all this stuff. And I just looked at them. I was like, look, if you don't need my help right now, I'm leaving. And, you know, that kind of like rolled and rolled and rolled. And then I ended up having that conversation with Kelly about my kids. So I'm like sitting there fuming as I'm about to have this conversation while this woman reads my children's soul's messages to me. And I just thought it was the most ironic thing ever.
Kind of perfect.
And then afterwards, you know, she even said to me, like, your daughter, not even in this particular case, but like in other moments, triggers you on purpose so that you can see those aspects of yourself. And I just wanted to offer you guys, like, these kids are so in tune. You've requested them to come here and push those buttons for yourself so that you can be aware of them on not only like what we've been talking about here, patterns, but also how to release them. And so this woman, Kelly, luckily said to me, you know, like what she's looking to show you is in those moments, if you actually notice, what gets blocked is there's like a blockage in the back of your heart, which at the time when she said it, I didn't even know there was a back of the heart. Like in my world, there's like a heart, you know, open your heart. But it never occurred to me that the heart is like three-dimensional in a case, like there's the front, there's the back, there's the top. Like it just didn't even occur to me.
Yeah.
She's like released from the back of the heart. And then I did that session with Andrew where he physically opened the back of my heart. And so now what I've noticed is like my experience is
energistically.
Yeah, energistically. I actually feel like when I breathe in, so like in those moments where I feel tension arising, what I've done is like I'll breathe in and I actually feel like oxygen, almost like water, is coming in through the back of the heart, and then it like cascades almost like a waterfall down the back of the system of the chakras. And in that moment, that like waterfall over the edge, I just feel this massive release of just all this energy that is just trying to bubble its way into my brain and just wreak havoc up there. I can like, when I catch it, not always perfect, when I catch it. So like this weekend, there's a few moments where I could see it starting. And I was just so present to just breath and how it's being channeled in my body. And instantly, I mean like instantly, before I had to do all the mind shit and before all that stuff, I could just feel the body like calm. And once the body calms, the mind will calm with the body. The mind usually gets the body all like, the body will get riled up and then the mind will just take it over and just be nuts. And it's been really, really beautiful.
Yeah. It's funny, like you're ready to hear something when you're ready to hear something. Because I've been talking about directions in the heart for like the last 6 months, and it's just like it won't resonate, right? But it's like when you need to hear it in the exact same moment, it's like it just gets like that.
I'll say it differently. It's not hear it. You know, like I heard it. It makes no difference hearing it. It's physically experiencing it that makes a difference. Because like she said to me, "Open the back of your heart." My brain went, I don't even know what the fuck that means.
You're like, what? It's got directions?
Right. Like, I went to Andrew and I was like, dude, she said this. I don't know what that is. Yeah. Then I had an experience and I can actually feel like, oh my God, that's the back of my heart. Whoa. Right. Now it's like, now I can hear it.
Yep. My first experience was he pulled a knife out of me from a past life and the back of my heart started leaking. And the leak didn't stop for 2 weeks.
Wow.
It was like a rupture that just couldn't heal. You know, it was like what it wasn't cauterizing. Cauterizing, is that a word?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like when it needs to close, cauterize. Whatever, like the platelets, right? So like it was just like leaking. And for like the next 10 days, I'm like, like the back of my heart is just leaking. And it was like one of my first experiences with it. By the way, all the organs from the stomach underneath, like you can just really start looking at that. It makes a huge difference. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a epic conversation. I think it's really valuable to look at that we've been brought into each other's lives to activate each other. But when we're active and we stay reactive, like when we get activated, but all we do is just react to it versus seeing the divine connection between the two. It's like how your daughter knows in this moment right now, he needs this trigger to see this thing. But it's not just our daughters. It's like all our friends are doing this. All your family's doing this. And it's like you guys are literally giving each other code constantly, our entire environment. That's why I want you to watch that video, Dr. Zach Bush, because he's talking how our entire environment is doing this. We need to, just to kind of give you guys a little preface here, like recondition our idea about bacteria, that there's no such thing as bad bacteria. There's only the body's immunity coming down, and then the bacteria can't do what it's supposed to do. Viruses, bacteria are actually codes in the air. So when you're walking through the air, even somebody's breath, they have certain chemicals that are coming out of there, actually changes the people's genetic structure that are listening to that person speak in real time. Wow. It's incredible. Like I've never heard someone go quite so deep, but it also explains like why Roundup and pesticides and all this stuff is actually destroying our ability to receive these codes. And that's why autism went from 1 in 5,000 children 40 years ago to 1 in 40 children today. Like, wow. Stuff like that. Like the codes are going bye-bye. We're destroying the codes.
Wow.
So it's just really interesting to see interpersonally if other species, fungus, bacteria, et cetera, are doing this for us and are actually helping our genetic coding. Like what they thought was junk DNA. Like I'm sure you've heard that terminology before. It's like the 99% of the DNA they didn't understand, meaning like that this part of the DNA wasn't creating gene coding. That part of the 99% junk coding is actually our environment giving us codes. They just didn't understand. They didn't know to look through that lens. So it's like literally our environment is coding our bodies. And that's what's so amazing about human beings. We're so adaptable. We're actually receiving codes and DNA from everything. And it's helping. So they're just starting to like explore these ideas. It's super interesting, but it also shows you like how you can actually go into the system and recalibrate it, which is fantastic. So anyway, I'm saying this again, just because our relationships are certainly codes for us. Yeah. We've chosen these people in our lives in order to receive the codes. And every single time we get upset is a way for us to actually see our own coding and machinery and say, hey, is this working for me? And if it's not, then we need to look at, okay, well, what's the actual alignment that I care about? I'm just kind of recapping what we talked about here. You know, what's the alignment that I care about? Is this operation in that alignment? If it's not, guys, then what you get is to finally go through that experience that you're avoiding through the shame. Because that's what the shame and the guilt and all that stuff does, is it's like a blocker, right? It's like this energy wants to move and you're like, nope, shame and guilt, right back down, like smush it. And it's what's not letting you fully experience that. It's why you don't have empathy for what the other person is going through. It's why you can't feel connected to what the other person is going through, because they're having an emotional experience you may have never even allowed yourself to have before. And you're operating in a single vein of how you can be versus just exploring other ways of being. You might have that experience and go, holy shit, that feels good. And now you're like, you know what? If I'm on time, I'm on time. If I'm not on time, I'm not on time. If I go to the gym, great. If I'm not, I'm not. Like for me, going to the gym is part of my alignment. But I used to have shame when I didn't go, and I would then go berate my body and send it negative feedback. That negative feedback had my body respond in a certain way to that code and frequency. Now when that happens, I'm like, I got nothing about it. But like when I'm in there, I'm loving my body and I'm loving my body into health. And that's what it was so great. I was like listening to this guy talk today, and I have to say, like, I feel so good about my health because the side effects that he's talking about, that it seems like 90% of the public is dealing with at this point in time. I don't even know what the fuck he's talking about. Or I experienced it in like patches versus like that being my life experience. And that kind of tells me I'm on the right path in certain ways. And certainly I could do a lot of things better. But there's like been so much focus in the last 5 years of my life, certainly living in California and Southern California, there's a lot of focus on this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, like there's a lot of stuff I'm really getting right. I don't want to get into all the science here, but it's so interesting, like must watch. I can actually post a video in here too. So I just want to kind of leave it with that. You know, if we take on that our environment is a coding machine, And we're this malleable software that can receive codes all the time, but the software gets to do a self check-in and say, hey, is this code that works properly for my system? And I want to keep that code, great. But part of receiving that code is having to go through that emotional experience. Guys, you know this, is that anything that you have in your life today that you remember with great accuracy, whether it's super pleasurable or really negative, I could put you in that moment. You'll remember everything about it, how it looked, how it smelled, how it felt. Like you had an extraordinary, like all your senses were involved in that. The things that we don't remember very well, it's because it's like, I remember that concept, but I don't quite remember who taught it to me, right? Like you remember shades of it. Certainly we've had this conversation a lot at home. Like I remember movie lines, like I could watch a movie and remember like front to back, like quote the shit out of it. Mandy can't remember a single movie line to save her life or whether she watched a movie. She's just like that. And then, but in interpersonal relationships, she'll remember people's names and what they talked about. And I started looking, I'm like, this is an interesting phenomenon because it comes up quite a bit. And I realized, like movies, I feel like like people who do that movie line stuff, it's very heady. It's like our memory works, but we understand things. So like our whole life is about understanding. So like you'll just pick up movie lines really quick. Yeah. But like a connection between two people, there's a feel to it.
Yep.
And so it's like a feel memory or like a thought memory. And certainly like I'm great at memory in other places and she's great at memory in other places. And I'm like, oh, this is really interesting because, my focus when I'm with somebody, my programming has been, don't show that you're stupid, right? Like I'm smart, I'm capable. And I just want to like be left with that. So of course I'm going to lead with my mind.
Yeah.
And my mind's going to be involved in that interaction, but I'm not going to be focusing on maybe as much as how does this make me feel with this person? And it certainly has been more of my focus the last few years, but I'm like, oh, wow, I got a whole world to explore over here that when I'm around people, I can focus on, I'm like, what's the frequency we're sending in between each other? How does it feel? I'm like, oh shit, I can tell. I'm like, let's upgrade my memory, in that way. So yeah, just talking about you, pal. Look, hey, buddy. Here.
What do we get to do right now?
I'm going to practice. I'm going to have my tennis lesson.
There you go. Cool. So I see you're nice and ready for it. Amazing.
Thanks for being ready. All right, let's go throw on a jacket and we'll All right.
All right, have fun. All right, guys.
All right, broski.
Yeah. So to complete the last little bit over here, guys, thank you for joining us today. Hope you got a lot of value from what we're sharing here today. And there's really nothing to understand here. It's just opening up to the fact that you get to have all these experiences that you may have like cut yourself off from, exploring them, feeling through them, seeing what kind of vibration and frequency that happens. And I would wager to say that if you practice this, the connection you're looking for with the people who matter most to you is going to deeply, deeply increase and get more interesting. And then you guys can start becoming incredible teachers for one another. All right. I think we'll wrap it up there.
Love you guys.
See you next week.
Soon.
Bye-bye.